Oh yeah, let me. How's it going, everybody? Let me turn my. Um, okay. All right, how's it going, everybody? I don't want to be very long. I hope everyone having a pleasant. It's Sunday. I'm happy because the Browns won. I got to see what the Bengals gonna do. 49ers won. But if you're into football, whatever your team is, Baltimore won. If you like Baltimore, the Cowboys are doing good. The Lions, Detroit Lions. I'm shocked because the Cleveland Browns and the Detroit Lions used to have some of the worst records in the league. They are doing their thing this year. So, but that's all enough on football. Um, so my hats out to the Lions because I didn't even pay attention to the Lions because whatever the case. But I want to make a quick video, right quick on this video is talking about if you're into wanting let's say you're wanting hardware gear, in other words, rack gear, like real gear, and not the plugins. One thing that I think, in my personal opinion, um, I think on the plugin side of all the tools that we use for recording, I think the reverbs, delays, and EQs, I think plugins have nailed it. That's why I don't have a ton of EQs, and I don't have a ton of plug-in outboard gear. I got some. Probably look at my shoulder, the shoulder. Well, I gotta look at the camera. This camera, you can see the rack right here of EQs, and over here of effect processors. Um, I just don't have a ton of them. Some big studios would have loads and loads of EQs, maybe even 500 series, which is another alternative if you're wanting to get rack gear, is to invest in 500 series. I never thought about doing 500 series, but a lot of studios have gone 500 series because you can get a lot of gear in a small amount of space at a fraction of the cost without and still. Because what's great about 500 series modules is that they all share the same rack power supply, which saves you. But some people will argue that you compromise a little bit of sound quality because they're sharing the same power supply, which to me doesn't make sense. But some people would figure that because of transformers and tubes and things like that draw a lot of current, and if you reduce a lot of the power to max out the unit when you're sharing versus each individual 19-inch rack have its own power supply. And then there is another debate about hardware gear that some, instead of having an internal power supply in a unit, they'll have the little wall units, and I forget there's a name for it. If someone remember what I'm talking about, just post in the comments. Some people will say that, in other words, you have to plug the little bitty, I don't know if it's a quarter-inch adapter or whatever, plug power supply, and there's his own individual small power supply, and that is the transformer slash power supply for the wall unit. I hate when I do that. That's so gross. I gotta stop making videos like that. I gotta make sure. I gotta stop making a video where, because I ate McDonald's earlier. So, anyhow, so, so what I was saying was that I lost my train of thought. Anyhow, so they call them something where they go into the wall instead of having his own power supply inside the unit. But here or there, all we really care about is functionality and sound. We really don't care about that kind of stuff. We just care about, if does it sound good, does it work, does it function like we want, does it do everything we want. Which brings me to the reason why I'm making this video in the first place. I'm making this video in the first place because all I want to say is this. Thank God for clone companies. Because clone companies, just like plugins, have evened. Let me take off my thick glasses. Plugins and clones have evened the playing field that only top studios would have. And a lot of these top studios would have this gear because they would have excessive, gigantic loans. They were bringing in tons of clients that they could, whatever the case. And if you're into the market of consoles, even if you, let's say you don't have, like me, I got a great deal on that Allen Heath. Sounds great. But there are still, let's say you want the big boys. Some of these companies, or some of these places that are selling, some of these companies that are selling like APIs or Neeves still want top dollar. I'm talking 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, whatever. Just because some places selling that unit or that sound, just because they're selling that console for that price doesn't mean that everyone's selling that type of console for that price. I've seen some places like Pro Sound Design or Pro Sound Audio or some of these websites that would be selling, if you're in the market for a console. Let's say you're in the market for a vintage console where you're going to have the giant power supplies in another room. You're going to have to do AC, run 220 volts or whatever. You're going to have to run some extensive cabling, EDAC cables, D-sub cables. Let's say you're in the market for that, but you just want the console and you want the sound, that commercial sound that those consoles give. What's great about it, I've seen SSLs, 40, 56G consoles, or some need VR consoles. I've seen them as low as 20 grand. Some people may say that, there's all the problematics of having a console that big. One, it takes 5, 6, 10 people to move that joker. But you gotta look at stuff. When you look at things like that, you gotta remember those are one-time deals. Once you get the console in place, you're not moving it. It's just not gonna. You're not. So, myself, if I'm in the market for a console like that, I'm not worried about the weight because it's just gonna be a one-time deal. Yeah, maybe a headache getting it in there, getting in your whatever workspace, whatever room, or how you're gonna set up. But once it's in there, it's in there. Because they are heavy. A lot of other things would be getting parts and getting maintenance and getting it commissioned to get it up. Would be the only other things I would look at. A lot of times those consoles, some people say that you shouldn't turn those consoles off. They're not designed to be turned off. They need to be on 24/7, just like the refrigerator. Believe it or not, when we look at our electricity bill, other than typical things that we turn off, like the lights, our computers sometime, or maybe stereo, other TVs, whatever things that we turn off, but the things that must stay on all the time is like our refrigerator. It runs pretty much unless there's a power outage. So, but commercial studios, they never turn off their gear. And there is a video, should you turn your gear on and off? They say a lot of times the biggest issue with gear that causes problems is the spike in power when you turn it on. I'm not here to debate that. The reason why I talk about electronics, stuff like that, because I did electronics in the Army, on Apache helicopters and all that when I was in the Army. So I kind of understand the concept of the electronic stuff. Now, I was going to say, the state of the heart of the video, people are saying, if you've been in the Army, you see I'm wearing my DZ, 2 IED, second to none, warriors. If you was in Korea, and 2 IED, if you was in the Army, you know what I'm talking about. You've seen this, this unit patch, the militarized zone. Yeah, I was in 2IED when I was in Korea. This is when I was at Camp Stanley, when I was in the Army. But out of the many duty stations that I've been to. But I'm not here to talk about the Army. I'm here to talk about clones and plugins. Now, I don't have to get a whole lot of emphasis about plugins because pretty much anyone that watches my channel or into DAWs own plugins. And there are pros and cons to both. But I'm here mainly to talk a few more minutes about the clones. Yes, it's nice to have. We've all seen what we call, I would say, the top of the line gear, or the go-to gear that everyone dreams about when it comes to hardware gear, brat gear. And there's no shortage of like LA2As. Everyone wants distressors. Everyone's want Universal Audio 1176s, and Pultec EQs, and I'm just naming a few. And there's so many more. There's Dayking. There's Joe Meek. There is Oversteer. There is just API EQs. There's Neve. Whether it's the 1073 or 1084 or 1081, whatever Neve there is. There's the Neve 33609 compressor. There's the API 2500 compressor. There is the SSL bus compressor. There is the GML EQ. There is a lot of the what we call the gear that you see that I'm talking about gear that if you try to buy that now, even if it came to Eventide H3000 or the AMS delays or some of the TC Electronics 2254, TC Electronics or TC Electronics, or just gear. And we know when we start looking at that type of gear, like some people want anywhere from $3 to $10,000 on like a Pultec EQ, or even if they want the 670 Fairchild, some people want as much as $60,000 for a Fairchild. Some of these people are just blatantly greedy. They know their prices are ridiculous. For even $8,000 for a Fairchild is ridiculous. If you look what those Fairchilds cost back in when they were, we're talking the 50s and 60s, when that unit was only $200 or $300. Now, whatever. And some people say it's, or even if it's a retro 170, whatever, a retro compressor, or just an maybe it could be Ampex, something that came out of a tape machine or whatever, or just whatever. Tape machines in general were 30, 40 grand. Now the one things that are coming down fast is consoles and tape machines, because everyone's like, you just can't edit and do everything you can do with tape like you can in a DAW. So tapes are really, 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 people just want them for the sound of people that use them. But for the most part, everyone has gotten adapted to the sound of you working in your DAW, especially when you have a good AD to DA converter, your interface. And most interfaces today, I don't care what it is, it can, the lowest price one like even Behringer, the converters in them are excellent today compared to 20, 15, 30 years ago. Even some of the most expensive converters 20 years ago don't sound as good as some of the most affordable ones today. And they're making interfaces that are super affordable that will get the job done. SSL's got one now. M Audio's had them. Motu makes some excellent. Motu, I'm talking about Mark of the Unicorn. And not even talking about your top ones that big studios buy, like the Burrows, the Apogees, the Lynx, the Antelopes and stuff. But even even if you buy an Audience, or even the Vote by Universal Audio, that Universal Audio Vote, and they have a small fraction of a 1176 compressor in there. All those are sounding excellent today. But to sum up the video, to wrap up the video, Like everyone knows, I don't have an LA2A in my rack. I know my shirt. Yeah, 'cause I use this when I'm working on my car, but that's probably why you look at the seat look like the back does. Because it's anyhow. Why am I talking about my shirt? I just got another package. I already know everyone know I already got the Lens 76. If you watch my studio tour, I have two Lens 76s. I just picked up another Lens, and this is upside down. Picked up, this is the box because I already put it in the rack down here. And those are cables I'm about to hook up. I'm about to hook it up. The Lens 2A. This thing is only about $600. And I heard for the LA2A sound, I was like, it sounds so good. Just like just like when I got my Clark Technic K2As, which got excellent. They said the Clark Technic K2, the KT2As is probably, everyone that have owned them said that's probably one of Clark Technic's best product. And that's before you even do the 24B the Black Lion 24B OptoCell upgrade like I got in mine. I got the upgrade OptoCell upgrade in mine. Because anything if you got any clone gear and you can get modifications and modify it, I would recommend that. Because that's just going to even the playing field for you buying it. But this Lens 2A, which is another product, it's kind of like all the go-to gear, unless you just know for a fact that you got big money like that, and you know that I'm just gonna buy an actual LA2A or an actual Pultec or an actual API 312 preamps, or I'm gonna buy the API 550 EQs or 550Bs EQs or whatever. I'm going to just get distressors. I'm just going to get Universal Audio 1176s. All that. I'm just going to go with that. And no one can criticize for that because those are the go-to hardware pieces. Out of thousands of pieces out there, those are the go-to, those are the ubiquitous pieces of gear in almost every studio around the world. But clone companies like Warm Audio, the Lindale Audio, they have their own gear. They're starting to get into the replication like Stam Audio, Heritage Audio, Ventec Audio, all these people that make BAE, all these companies that make versions of the real ones they're making, like Neve 1073 preamp, EQ preamp. Everyone's making their own version of that. So it's kind of like when I say that, because the clones sound so much they sound so much like the originals at a fraction of the cost. Unless you got big money to get the original stuff, no one's going to hear, like me, I got a Tone Beast. I picked up another Tone Beast because I like to have pairs. Anyone that knows me, why do I always have two or try to get two? In case it's still electronics, they still fail. It's kind of like even the name brand stuff out there, like Neve, SSL, that stuff breaks. That's why they have techs in commercial studios. And SSL consoles can still break. A channel can still go down. Even if it's SSL, it still can fail because it's still electronics. Because one of the biggest failures in electronics out of every component on a circuit board, and I've known this from working on electronics even in the Army, is electrolytical capacitors. And their electrolytical capacitors, and sometimes diodes, sometimes a resistor would fail. Most of the time, a resistor failed because it was just something got through the voltage, or a transformer can fail, what we call an inductor. a transformer can fail, power supply transformer, or whatever the case may be. But the number one failure component are electrical capacitors, because they fail over time. They start to leak. Versus a film or ceramic, they tend to be a lot more stable. But it's got running fillets, film capacitors. They're $2 or $3 a piece versus a 25 cents electrical capacitor. And you got to remember, these people are trying to manufacture in bulk. They're trying to manufacture 1 million units. So if you add up all the cost of all the components, $300 or $400 in components versus $50 components. Yeah, they can mass produce a lot more at $50 in components compared to $300 in components, if you get my drift. Like cinematic transformers are costly, or high-end op amps, 2550, 2540 op amps, or whatever the case, cost more than like TL 057 or TL 097 or whatever op amps, which is only like 20 cents an op amp compared to a $3 2540 op amp or whatever the case. I'm just throwing numbers out there. The numbers are not completely accurate, but I'm just using those as. So that's the reason why. So it's 21 minutes, and I wanted to wrap up the video. I would say, doing the music that I'm doing up here, I'm very, very, very happy with the results of using stuff like the Lin. You see right here, like this Lin. I'm about to use this one. I just got this one, but like I used vocals running through my Clark Technics, and the vocals sound, because I did mod them, but they will sound, even if you got them stock, they sound good. The same thing with my Art Pro VLA compressors, just like with my Clark Technique compressors and every other every piece of gear I got in here. So thank God for Warm Audio. Thank God for Stam Audio. Thank God for Heritage Audio and Vintech. And I'm not gonna say BAE because they're just as pricey as Neve. The price of a BAE, I mean, you might as well just get a Neve. Some people are real endorsers of BAE. Personally, I'm like, they're cloning Neve. Just get the Neve. They're in the same price point, so I can't. But Heritage Audio, Vintech Audio, Warm Audio, Stam Audio, all these clone companies, there's more out there. There's lots of them out there. And everyone's making their versions of 73s, Pultecs, LA2As, CLBs. Now Warm Audio got a clone of the TubeTech CLB called the Warm Audio. They got their version of it, and they say that's the number one. If you're into hip hop, as an example, Warm Audio's got the WA. I think it's the WA 800 or whatever. I think that is. Or I gotta look at the number again. The WA, whatever it is, that's cloning the Sony 800. It's the microphone with the big gigantic heat sink on the back of it. I can't remember the model number. That microphone with a 1073 or 1073 clone, like a Warm Audio 73, in conjunction with the CLB compressor, or the TubeTech CLB or if you get the Warm Audio, they say that is the number one vocal chain for like 90% of hip hop artists, rappers, and even some R&B artists, because of the warmth that it and the presence that it puts as it cuts through the mix. But even that, you can still do well with pretty much any tube mic. Like the number one, Blackbird considers the Teletronics E251 microphone is one of the best microphones for female vocals. So some other studios prefer the Neumann U87 for vocals, which is not a tube microphone. It's a FET microphone, solid state microphone. Then some studios prefer 47s on vocals, especially for males. Then there's other things that he prefer for like on instruments, whatever the case. Mike 47s on acoustic guitars or, drums. Usually SM57 is the choice for drums, especially snare. Sennheiser 421s on toms and so forth. D112 on a kick. A FET 47 also on the kick. And the preamps of choice, something like 73s or API 312s are the two choices for drums and vocals out of, vocals and 12s. Then there are other classic top end preamps like my Avalons. Those are expensive preamps. You can see one over my shoulder. I got two of them. Then also another hidden gem top of the line is the Universal Audio 610, which is that one. That is a number, especially if you're into Nashville. A lot of Nashville studios use the Universal 610 for vocals. So there's no one rule because genre to genre, music to music, rock to R&B to hip hop to country. It all changes based on, but all of it works. You can rap on a 47. But the great thing about Warm Audio, as an example, is they make their clone versions of these top mics. The Warm Audio has their, so it's like an Elan, Elam, the Teletronics, not Teletronics, Telefunken Elam, which is E-L-A-W, A-M, E-L-A-W. I keep wanting to say W. The E-L-A-M, or just E for sure. Telefunken E251. It's probably used in 90% of most female country and western vocals, right? Versus R&B vocals are usually the Sony or a Newman U87 on vocals, right? Then we cannot exclude dynamic mics. Like Michael Jackson vocals were recorded on the SM7. They have the SM7B now, but the SM7. Bruce Swedien loved to use Michael Jackson. He figured that was the best sounding vocal mic for Michael Jackson, and it's a dynamic mic. Just like the SM58 was one of the most preferred microphones for live performance. You'll see a lot of SM58s in a lot of live performances. Excellent sounding microphone, and that's probably one of the most affordable microphones ever as an SM58. And if you've heard, one of the most preferred live consoles were like an Allen Heath, like this GL I got. Imagine how great they sound at concerts. How great, especially, so imagine in your studio. So, to sum up, if you're into getting some, hardware gear, and that you're like, well, I can't afford $500,000 in outboard gear like these big commercial studios. Clones can give you the same sound pretty much at a fraction of the cost. And this video, most people probably watching the video probably already know this. They probably already have clones. But there are some people that might be in the market of wanting to expand their hardware, and they probably watch a lot of YouTube videos, and they probably watch a lot of studio tours, especially the big studios like Sunset Sound or Blackbird or Electric Lady or any of the big studios. Some people watch studio tours like that just to get a sense of what the gear these people are using. And when you go to like East West or whatever, they got a Neve console. You're not buying one of those type of consoles under $1 million. You're just not. That's just because it's nostalgic, it's vintage. They're just not cheap. You might be getting one of those type of 8078s or 8068 Neve consoles for $500,000 or whatever. But if you look at all their rack, you know, they're going to have 12 Pultecs and, you know, some 670 Fairchilds and I mean, just, you know, distressors and Universal 1176s and, you know, Teletronics LA2As, and they're just going to have that because they had the budget for those type of clients starting all the way when they started. You know, we're talking $1 million clients. Even back in the 60s, you know, they were bringing in $1 million clients. Michael Jackson, everyone from Frank Sinatra to Michael Jackson were recording in those studios. Mariah Carey and so forth. They're going to have the budget, but most of us have realized that when record labels started going down and CD sales was the number one, that was the number one marketing tool, and people stopped buying CDs, and everyone started opening up their home recording studio, people can see how this stuff can get pricey quick. I'm still buying cables, and I got so many cables, and I'm still buying cables. I'm still buying patch bays. This is, some people say you ain't got to keep buying that stuff if you just go to a simple system. I have a system in this room for a reason. But I'm still getting everything I need for it because I'm halfway. I'm 80% there. A lot of it's just acoustic treatment and panels. I got a viewer, a subscriber that wants to link up and help me with that. So we'll see what happens on me reaching out on acoustic panel and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens on that. What else? Other than that, that's going to do it for the video. I honestly, and I'll just sum up like this, and it took me over 30 minutes to say this one little thing. And it's probably, I should have said this a long time ago. Why spend that kind of money on those name gear when you can get the I'm gonna say exact results, because even the name brand gear, some of it can sound a little different, and that's because of the electronics. But I'm saying, why buy a Universal 1176 when the Lens 76s that I got sound just as good? That was probably the point I wanted to make. Other than that, I know it's been a long video. Thanks for watching, and post some comments on what you think, your thoughts on it as well. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great one.